her started. Well, look who's back in the garage. It's me and the Subaru. Tonight is the night, guys. We're gonna start on my IAG air oil separator for the old Subaru here. So it's been waiting here for a couple months now, and time to stop procrastinating and just get started on it. And I have no choice but to finish it at some point, right? She's gonna appear to be pretty janky, but underneath the hood there'll be a little bit more going on. Also, it is very functional at the same time. Air oil separators are very important to have, and a boosted engine. It could help prevent many issues down the road, and 10 years later, here I am, late to the party, but we're gonna hopefully get it done, and we'll be running smooth and safely and all the above. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna dig into the box, kind of lay out some stuff, and start step one. Someone's happy to see me. Never have enough table space. Perfect. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we just have everything laid out on the table. Pretty much all the tools you'll need, all the hoses. I went on ahead and labeled them, each of the measurements. I got them taped, that way I can reference the directions pretty easily when they call for the 12.5 inch to 15 inch PCV hose assembly, or the 36.5 inch valve cover hose, or the 26.5 inches, blah blah blah. It'll make the install a little smoother, I think. I don't have to just sit and guess and maybe get some lines mixed up here and there. So I just went on ahead, took the extra time and labeled them. Simple, just put your tape measure down, lay the hose out. Here's the tools needed. 10mm wrench, 12mm socket, 8mm nut driver. Not really sure what that's for. I have an 8mm socket. I don't even own nut drivers, to be honest. 8mm socket, yeah, all-purpose lube, needle nose pliers, pipe / hose cutters, pick tools, zip ties, hose clamps. So yeah, here we go. We got a 10 and a 12, 10 and a 12, 10 and a 12. A little bit of each. Deep socket, shallow socket. We got hose cutters, hose removal pliers, assortment of needle nose pliers, hose crimp off pliers. One of these will come in handy when we have to remove the coolant hose at some point. Here's a specialty hose clamp removal pliers. So I think we're ready to get started here. Just wanted to kind of get organized, figure out what everything is. First thing we need to do is remove our intercooler. Got to get that baby out of the way. It's pretty simple. One last little note. I pulled up the IAG AOS install for my year, make, and model, and many others. Looks like it goes from the 02 to 07 WRX, 04 to 07 STI, 04 to 08 Forester XT. So basically I'm gonna be reading this, going through the list, and doing it in real life. Hopefully we'll be doing one step at a time, and we'll be getting this job done. Kind of looks a little intimidating, all these hoses and whatnot, but we'll figure it out. We'll do it. We'll get it done. Safety first. Little 10mm nut holding that baby on. Got my little stubby Olsa tools, impact grade. They're pretty sweet. Got suckered into buying those, and I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all. Alright, battery's disconnected. Next we're gonna pull off the intercooler. Got the 12mm bolts holding on the top here, and we got a couple PCV hoses we gotta pull off here. Obviously we gotta get out our 12mm for our bypass valve, 10mm for the clamps on my car, and this intercooler should pull right out. Don't lose your gasket. Nice and crusty. I have the Mishimoto upgraded couplers here, so those are all going to be 10mm. I would use my power ratchet, but I can't fit a deep socket right there. There's too many threads to fit a shallow socket, so that's why I'm using my manual labor hand right here. Let's get this baby off. Push it away from you. Once it comes off the throttle body, give it a pull to the right, and it should remove from the turbo side without too much hassle. Voila, it is off. Put it on the old parts table here. Frees up a lot of space just with that intercooler out of here. It's still pretty crowded though. Next we got to get this bracket off where the intercooler is being held to. 2 more 12mm bolts holding this thing on. Zip these babies out. Bracket is out. To the parts table. Next we're going to get this coupler off the throttle body. Come on, baby. Get over there, boy. Alright, a little bit of oil residue. Hopefully we'll be fixing that issue as soon as we get this AOS installed. Coupler is off. Coupler is going to the parts table. Coupler is on the parts table. Let's remove this hard line going across the intercooler. 2 10mm bolts holding this on. Apparently we won't be reusing this, but we'll keep it close just in case. Alright, we're on the driver's side now. We're going to be going after, if you're looking at the front of the car, it's going to be your first port. You can also tell because this is the same hose that connected to the intercooler. So you just follow that down and then confirm that this is the correct hose. Alright, I got the clamp off. Just going to try to wiggle it out. There we go. Came off pretty easy. Could be because it's already split. Got the first side of the hose off. Time to move on to the other side. Well, I kind of expected this. I'm gonna have to remove my intake system and everything in the way of the other hose on the valve cover. 2 tins holding in the snorkel, and we got Cobb SF intake and a box. So we're gonna be removing that with a 2.5 millimeter Allen here. Got that off. 5/16 for these hose clamps. $10 mil over here, 12 mil down there. Now we could probably see what we're doing. Alright, we're on the passenger side now. I'm gonna zoom into the hose that we're after, the one that's closest to you. Hose clamp is up and off. Now we're just gonna give it a pull and hopefully she comes off. Alright, she kind of just broke away right there. Just gonna finagle that up and out. So this will be the hose that you disconnected from your intercooler on the left side. Just a little breather hose. Kind of maneuver it out, give it a pull, give it a wiggle. There we go, we got the left side hose out. Moving on. Right here, we got 4 10 mil bolts holding on the throttle body on the back here. So yeah, let's go on ahead and get on to it. Let's get to getting. I've never had this off before, so we're gonna do it together. Just break them free real quick. Hopefully we don't discover any problems or create any problems by tearing into something so old that's been in place for all its life. Let's confirm these are all going to be the same length. You never know taking stuff apart for the first time. Gotta proceed with caution. So far they're looking identical. Original coating right there. Okay, I got all 4 bolts out. They look all the same. Let's wiggle this thing off. So basically, I guess we just have to remove this to get it out of the way so we can access the hoses beneath it. I think that's what we gotta do. I kinda wanna just get the throttle body off of here. I just hope I don't, you know, damage anything else while I'm doing this. Basically 20 years old. Things are gonna break, things are gonna crack. Just gotta be careful. Let's get our PCV hose off here. It's the one that connects right here to the plastic little connection here. Mine has a 1/4 inch size on my hose clamp. So pop that guy off, hopefully he comes off nicely. There we go. Got that hose off of the PCV connection, and then this also goes down to the block breather down there, part of your PCV valve, and then we're gonna follow it down and around, and there's gonna be a nipple on the back side of the intake manifold. So we're gonna pop this off the barb fitting here. 90 degrees needle nose pliers. I guess it was kind of pointless to remove the connectors from the throttle body, but it's not that big of a deal if you do or don't. Might need a little flathead screwdriver to get into the edge right there and kind of pry it away from that bulkhead there. Well, I'm not sure if there'll be anything left of this hose when I'm done with it. Just kind of peeling away from this fitting. Oh, don't poke a hole in your fuel line, bro. Be careful, be careful. There we go. All right, that wasn't too bad. So there's a little lip at the end of this nipple here that keeps it in place, and that's what you're fighting to get off. All right, let's get a close-up of what we're gonna be pulling off next. It's basically the whole assembly of the PCV system that we installed not too long ago. Might be hard to show you guys, but just believe me, underneath this little crossover hose, you're gonna find your little block breather assembly that's attached to the PCV as well. But I remember I didn't even put a hose clamp on it, so it should just pull right up and off. Now this throttle body's in my way a little. Fine, we'll just kind of push it this way, push it away, and pry up on it here. There we go. I'm gonna maneuver out that piece and I'll show you what I just pulled out. Here's the block breather, that part of the assembly that I purchased with the PCV. I'll link that video up above. So yeah, the block breather hole, or a little port, is right down there. The fat tubing comes off the fitting down there. And then this is the part that connects to the throttle body down here. And then this connects to your plastic little connector there. So 3 different parts to get off, and then you should have this assembly off. And then we're gonna go prep the next pieces to go on. All right, I gotta go back to our bag of goodies from the kit here. Gonna pull out our hose clamps, our thick breather hose. Just gonna dump everything out here. We're gonna pull out this guy, that guy, these 2 guys. Boom, 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 boom. That'll go onto here with your hose clamp. Hose clamp. Why are they purple? One's purple, one's orange. Alright, so both clamps are basically, they're created equal. They're just different colors. The instructions do call for some type of all-purpose grease. So I have some silicone grease right here. Hopefully it works okay. Should help lube-a-doob it up. A little bit of lube in there. Looks seated pretty nicely there. So we'll grab our hose clamp just about to the end, and I'm gonna clamp it down. I've had these pliers forever and I've never really used them for the exact purpose that they're intended for. Click it, secured, baby. And then you can actually reuse these too. So I'm gripping it from the furthest out, all the way left, all the way right. And then you can push it down, see if it'll come off. Let's see. So I just unclamped it right there. Let's re-clamp it again. Pretty simple. So obviously we have the second hose clamp here. That's to secure this little piece onto the breather hole. Boop. Right down in that hard to get to area. So wish me luck on getting this hose clamp clamped. It's time to get this thing situated on the block breather port there. And this orientation where this little Y that splits off to the right is gonna go right towards your cold side of the turbo. So something like that is what I see in the instructions. So I'm gonna try to get it as close to that as possible. And hopefully I can maneuver it around if needed. But I think all the new hoses I'm gonna be using are gonna be very pliable, so I shouldn't have an issue. Well, I apologize if you guys can't see much, but I'm basically gonna be going in and I'm gonna focus on getting the part that clamps on the hose clamp here on the outer side. That way I can sneak my needle nose pliers in on my right and hopefully click it down and snug it up that way. That's my plan of attack. Let's see what happens. Should have lubed it up real quick. Gonna hook on that top hose clamp just like that. That way it doesn't slide off. There's shimmying in place. Okay, we're pretty on there. I really hope this stupid hose clamp's gonna go on there. A lot of hopes and prayers here, fellas. Here's our Y fitting down there. We got pretty much situated. At first I was like, oh crap, how am I gonna get a hose on this if it's directly, you know, below this turbo outlet here? It's got some nice flexible ability here. So I'm just gonna kind of move it to the side as I put the hose on. Same goes for the Y fitting right here, when the drain hose is gonna kind of snake through this hole onto the Y fitting, and then that's gonna be your oil return after it comes off from the bottom of the air oil separator. So I'm gonna attempt to get this hose clamp on now. I'll have the one for the bottom just kind of hanging on right there. Then I'll try to orientate it, get a grip on it, and try and snap it tight. I did manage to get this dang hose clamp on the bottom side. It wasn't easy. It took about maybe 5-10 minutes just going back and forth trying to figure out what the best method was to getting that thing on. I ended up having luck with these hose removal pliers. A little bit of struggle, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of hatred towards this clamp down here, but we ended up getting it. The lower hose clamp is on and secured. Alright, now we're getting into the fun stuff. We're getting into the actual AOS unit here. Luxurious body here, red, anodized, whatever, painted, not anodized. So we're gonna get our bracket situated here. Get our bracket from the kit here. Got a bracket with the hardware. We're gonna be bolting up our bracket to the back of the AOS. I'm just following where they recommend in the directions. We'll grab the 3 supplied bolts from the kit. I believe those are gonna be a 5mm. Hopefully we won't have to adjust the bracket, but as you can see, they give you a lot of different options here. I'm gonna center the bracket with the corner here, just make sure it's flush here. That way the OCD won't be, you know, triggered. Okay, not too tight because it is going into aluminum, so we don't want to strip that out, that's for sure. Alright, just flip the AOS over. We got 2 19-inch hoses here for our coolant lines. They're gonna go to the ports on the left, and then we're gonna have a 20-inch line for our oil drain. It's gonna be on the last port on the right. Alright, we got our 20-inch line here. I'm gonna grab some silicone grease here. Use whatever general purpose grease you have. This is what I have, so got a little bit in there all around. Ooh, that's satisfying right there. It's a nice click. So we can rotate whatever angle we need. Same with the swivel here. Same thing, get a little bit of lube in here. A little bit of lube. And then we have our 20-inch hose right here for our drain that goes on the port on the right. So far it's going pretty smooth. Why did I say that? Probably shouldn't say those words. Alright, clickety-clack this guy on. It's really satisfying to hear that click there. Oh yeah. Give it a little swivel, kind of move the lube around a bit. Make sure everything's happy, everybody's happy. Alright, there we go. It's looking good. Alright, back to the engine bay. Next up, we're gonna be removing this 12mm bolt just below your strut tower here. I don't believe I've ever had this bolt out either. This one's a little crusty. Alright, there's the bolt. We're just gonna be bolting up the AOS to existing threaded holes right here in the engine bay. Pretty handy. Alright, let's bring in the bread and butter right here. Here's our somewhat assembled AOS. Allegedly, this AOS fits with my Cusco strut tower brace. We'll figure out real quick if that's gonna work or not. Alright, I'm gonna get this thing mounted up and I'll show you guys a close-up. So we got a 12 mil bolt on the top, bigger hole, and then we got a 10 mil on the smaller hole. I guess I should get my blue tape off of these hoses, huh? Apologize, all you guys can probably see is arm hair or something. A little tricky. Just working in that 12 mil bolt on the top here. Find that 10 mil down here. Where's my hole? Find my hole there, Jake. Yeah, I think I found the hole. Tightening down the 12 mil bolt. Let's get the 10 now. It's definitely tight, but fitment is there with the Cusco front strut tower brace. All right. It's looking pretty dang good already in this engine bay. Look at that, it's sitting pretty in the corner back there. That is nice. Everything's tight, mounted securely. You can see the clearance or lack thereof, but look at, there's a little bit of space underneath there. Just a little bit. It may or may not be butting up against it slightly, but I mean, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't care. Bunch more ports to plumb with hoses. Got the 3 going to who knows where. Basically, I mean, this is all universal fitment, right? We're gonna cut these hoses to length. Where does it go? I don't know. We'll have to find out where those things are plumbed, where all the hoses are plumbed, but it's looking good so far. I'm liking the way it looks. All right. It's time to route our coolant lines now. We're gonna get these situated. We're gonna be bypassing this hose here. We're gonna be taking this off. It's gonna reroute the coolant through the AOS and back out. So I went on ahead and just started feeling out my coolant hoses, see which way they route best, see which way flows best, you know what I mean? So your 2 coolant hoses are the first 2 here. Your drain hose is gonna be this one way over here. From what I've heard, doesn't matter what order these are connected. One of the ports can go here, the other port can go the other one, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which way the coolant hoses are connected, because it's just gonna flow through and around the oil within the AOS. Any returned oil will be nice and hot and going back into the block. That's my understanding anyway. Makes sense to me. So we got a little bit of commotion, a little bit of, what's it called? A little bit of spaghetti going on down here. I got I don't even remember what this is. My oil feed line kind of is in the way a little bit. So I'm kind of liking the flow for this coolant line here. Comes up through here, up, around. So I just kind of have it mocked up right here. It's gonna go right where this clamp is, where the existing hose is. Cutting it to length there, slipping it on there. And then I was figuring out the best routing for this one. A nice mild curve will do, I think, just like that. Just keep in mind, have your car, you know, at resting temp. You don't want any pressure built up in the system, or else you're gonna have a lot of coolant leaks going on. So it's also helpful to maybe do some pre-cutting before you remove your existing hose. That way to kind of minimize any coolant spillage. But we'll see what we spill. Let's get our clamps from the kit here. I hear these aren't the best clamps. Get them kind of staged on the hoses. Alright, this is Feature Jake coming at you, and I noticed there were 2 thicker hose clamps in the kit. There was only 2, and there's only 2 coolant lines, and these are the most problematic lines to leak from what I've heard, what I've researched. So I swapped those out with the big beefy ones, got rid of the dinky ones, and went with the beefy ones. Just something I noticed as I was going along, so just a little heads up. This is your warning. Feature Jake out. So I'm gonna start with the middle hose coming out, my second coolant line. This one's gonna go to this expansion tank port here. Get it pretty far down, so then I'll get this cut to size. Got these cool Amazon special hose cutters. They're good for, you know, small projects where you're not gonna use them every day, but I can link these down below along with all the other tools that I'm using. Just like that, nice straight cut. I'm using these pretty cool hose clamp pliers. Any old, you know, needle nose pliers would do as well, but it's nice to have the right tool for the job. Get this guy slid on and into position before we cut it to size. I almost don't have to trim anything off on this one. Just a skosh. Okay, quick little look before I do the actual hose removal for this coolant line here. So I basically have this middle one coming up. It's gonna kind of crowd my oil return line there, or my oil feed line coming through that stainless line. Figure this is gonna be here, coming up like that, going right into the port on the overflow. And then I decided to tuck this other coolant line going from the first port under in between, up against this bracket right here, underneath some of the harnesses. And then it kind of just does an easy bend around. And then I'm gonna pop it on right here once I get that other hose off. Only time will tell how this is all gonna be routed. But I'm trying to do it like tight and clean as I go along. That way I'll have, you know, maybe some more room to play with further down the line. Hose clamp coming off. Alright, we're gonna be quick with it. We're gonna be sick with it. We're gonna be quick with it. Okay, so far we're dry. Get the clamp into position. Alright, one hose down. Now we're working our way down to that bottom one. Just to be safe, I had 2 hose clamps on this hose. Get this guy loosened. Alright, let's be quick with it. A little bit of nature's lube. Not bad, not bad. A little dribble. Slide her on there. A little tricky getting the clamp on. If you don't squirt out, we don't want any leaks. Alright, coolant lines are secured. Here's a peek at the coolant hose we removed. Alright, here's a quick little overview of my coolant lines here. We got the first port at the bottom going to the one on the turbo feed there. Then we got the second port coming out going up into the overflow port on the coolant. I don't know if this is problematic going underneath the wires versus over the wires versus touching the wires. All this stuff, I don't know how hot that's gonna get. The feed line, what's the rating on these hoses, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's start routing this drain line. Well, I'm putting some thought into this, I think, and I'm trying to make the shortest, most downhill path for our return line. A shorter route seems best. It's gonna come out, we're gonna zip tie it to the AC hard line there. It's gonna swing around through the bracket there, and then I'm gonna cut it to length, and then it's gonna line up with our Y fitting right below here. We're gonna throw on our heat wrap right here just because it's very close to the downpipe and exhaust components, so it'll be well protected. So let's go ahead and pull this back out, put the sleeve on and get it finally mounted in there. Slip on our sleeve. That's very nice. Official right there, baby. Can't really mess this up, so we gotta measure twice and cut once, you know what I mean? Slide her on through. Now we'll get our hose clamp on there. Position it for easy access. Don't drop your hose clamp into your turbo. That would not be a good day. Flip her onto the barb. A little tricky. Work it on there. Make sure she's on there nice and good like. Definitely a tight fit. On, baby. Nice, I like that. I like that a lot. Let's get our hose clamp in position. See if I can get a bite with these things. Yeah, gotta switch tools and get it done with this. Little 90-degree plier should do the trick. A little tricky, a little tight. Nothing new for Subarus. Okay, we're on. On like Donkey Kong. All right, here's what we're working with. Comes around, nice smooth bend. Comes off this at a downward angle. Comes down and around. We got our hose clamp secured down there on the Y. One step at a time, guys. It's really not that bad. Once you start to kind of learn how the whole system works and where everything goes, it just gets better and better as you learn more about it. All right, next up we got our 26 and a half inch whatever hose here. That's gonna be your passenger side valve cover vent hose. So we're gonna get this thing ready. We're gonna put our sleeve on. All right, we got some silicone grease in the fitting per usual. So I'm gonna start by routing it. Directions say to go under this bracket for the intercooler. So we're just gonna follow suit. Click it onto the bottom port. Okay, we're gonna go under and through. Just kind of like take your route, you know, pick your route and go from there. And you do you, you know. Get it to that port somehow, some way. I'll show you guys a close-up once I get it routed. Man, it's so much easier to film with an iPhone versus my G7X that I have. I mean, this iPhone is just always in focus. It's just quick, clear. Anyways, so this is what I'm showing you on the bottom port. Underneath the bracket, through there. Goes right down in front of your wastegate there, comes back down. Gonna find a path around and under. See it right there. Coming here, and then it pops out right there, and I'm gonna cut it to size, and then we're gonna get it mounted on that nipple coming out of the valve cover. We'll have one more hose plumbed and ready to move on. Okay, choppity chop. Sorry, you can't really see much, but we're just getting this hose clamp situated. Gonna focus for daddy over here. It's on. Now we're moving on to our PCV line. It's gonna run from this top port here, around, down. We're gonna go underneath this hose that goes to the bypass valve over here. and then we're gonna mount it to this barb fitting here on the back of the intake manifold. One difference is, since I do have this Cusco strap bar, the directions call for this line to be routed behind the AC line, but I'm gonna have to just kind of keep it just in front of it. It's too drastic of a curve just because this space is wasted here with the strap bar. So it's not that big of a difference, just a little updated info for you if you do have a strap bar. So let's get that line installed now. I'm gonna grab our 12.5 inch to 15 inch hose. We got two different sections. One's clearly a bigger diameter. That's the one with the fitting that's gonna connect to the AOS, and then the other smaller hose is gonna connect to that barb right on the intake manifold. I got my little bit of lube on the inside of the fitting. Give it a little wiggle, smear the lube around a little. Just gonna maneuver this baby underneath this guy. Underneath that big boy, pull it up, get a rough measurement here. Let's get our hose clamp slipped on there. It's obviously going to be the smaller diameter one to fit your hose here. Get her mounted up and move on. A little bit of a cluster. We should be used to this by now, right? Can't see much, but I'm just wiggling this thing on here. Almost on, as you see. A little bit of persuasion here. There we go, nice and flush. Here it comes. Come to papa. Just like that, looking good. Where the throttle body goes on, my gasket is a little toasty, so I'm gonna slap on a new gasket. I'll have everything linked down below in the description. Got me a nice Grimspeed throttle body gasket here. Just gonna get this old one off here. Definitely brittle. It's almost like a plastic gasket. I think I'm gonna give a wipe to this little area right here. Right inside here as well, just give it a quick little cleanup. Might as well since I'm already here. I'm not gonna go wild, just give it a nice wipe. Same with the throttle body area, give it a nice wipe. You can see all this black stuff coming out. Grab a new gasket, get this thing back on. So I'm putting a new one on the exact way the old one came off. All right, let's get our 10 mil bolts back in the throttle body here. Come on, ya rata bastard. Apparently the torque setting, from what I read, is about 7 foot-pounds. Don't quote me on that, but very light, evenly tightening these up. I'm just gonna use my best judgment and give it my own little torque, but feel free to grab your torque wrench and get it to spec. Step 397 complete. I think it's actually like step 55, to be honest. Obviously you're gonna wanna get your connectors back into position. You'll have maybe some check engine lights if you didn't do this step, so sure to get your connectors clicked back into place. Okay, next we got our longest hose in the kit. It's gonna be our 36-inch hose. It's gonna go from the middle port right there on the AOS, and I'm gonna plumb it all the way over to the driver's side valve cover vent. It's gonna plug in down there. I'll show you guys a little closer when I get to that point. 3 more to go after that one, so we're making good progress. Let's get her done. Alright, we have the final routing of the next valve cover vent. Going on the middle port there, kind of showed you guys already, but here's the final routing. I ended up coming up over this area and then snakes directly down and plugs in right there on the left one. So more of like a straight shot through. The hose originally routed underneath this. This line is so hard now that it was kind of kinking it off. Just kind of sneaks in along the side and down, and everything's looking good. Got our hose clamps on there. And yeah, we're ready to run the next line. We're gonna be securing our next hose. This is the breather hose. It's gonna go the last port on the right side on the top. We're gonna be connecting this one. So it's a real short hose, about 16.5 inches. So we're gonna route this one down. It's gonna be the last connection on this Y fitting. It's gonna be the same fitting that our drain hose runs to. Let's not forget our supplied hose clamp. I'm gonna run this on here first. And there's no trimming required on this, at least that's for my application. Looks like it's a perfect fit, and it gives us enough hose to kind of zip tie this one to some other ones near it. We're gonna just maneuver it on. Should be fun trying to get the intercooler piping back on as this thing's just rubbing right near it. Nice and flush down there. Let's bring our hose clamp down, get it situated, and figure out what kind of routing we're gonna need to do with this piece. A little tricky, but just kind of work it down. I'm gonna try to use this little handy tool. Makes it nice because it's like spring loaded and you can just lock it. You can lock the hose clamp open while you get it into position, and then you just let go of the little lever, and then it's kind of like a game changer, to be honest. You just release it and boom, spring loaded clamp is good to go. Right on the nipple. I don't think anything's gonna be coming off of that. All right, next up, the next hose we're gonna deal with is the 14.5 incher. It's gonna have an elbow on it just like this, little right angle. So this is just gonna be a breather hose. Only 2 ports left. It's going to be on the right side. And then the other elbow here is going to connect to our little PCV connection down here. A little white guy. Coming together. We only got 1 more hose after this, so we're going to just kind of tidy things up after that. Start using our zip ties and whatnot. Get everything nice and tucked and looking good. Oh yeah. Let's get our hose clamp on there. Definitely a cluster, I gotta say. A lot of hoses going every which way. But it's for functionality, right? Long term. Even though I've been running no AOS for like 10 years. Better late than never, right? I don't know. It's like a little swivel on this white piece here. Here we are, the final hose going in place. This is our 9.5 inch hose with a little elbow barb fitting there. And this is gonna connect to the last port on our AOS. This hose goes right to the turbo inlet. It's part of the, I think it was step 3 when we were taking the intercooler off. It's basically the left side little vent hose that connects there. So we're gonna go on ahead and connect our elbow there. Got our hose clamp in place over here. We'll be styling. I might do some readjustments when I go to put the intercooler back on, if anything's, you know, in the way. So we'll just have to see how it fits. Let's go ahead and slap this last hose on and we'll be wrapping this job up. Top left port is complete. So that'll be elbow. It would be nice to get a straight barb just to, you know, kind of clean it up a little bit. But we'll go with the elbow. 9 additional hoses in the engine bay now. Just all kinds of spaghetti going everywhere. But again, this is all about functionality, longevity, and keeping your EJ running nice and clean. Keeping the oil out of the intake. It's gonna make working on this thing 10 times harder because you're gonna have to maneuver around all these hoses, maybe even remove some depending on what you're doing. But that's just the life of an EJ, I guess. The life of Subaru ownership. Ah, yeah, it's a love-hate relationship sometimes, I gotta be honest, but it's more love than hate at the end of the day. So here's our AOS roughly installed. Let's go on ahead and tidy things up, get the intercooler stuff back in place, and figure out what's not gonna work with the routing that we have currently. So enough talking, let's get to work. Hose clamp going in place, getting that secured right on the barb here. Now I hope these zip ties have some type of heat resistant, you know, because what about the zip ties? How long are those gonna last? How long or is that gonna last, my guys? My G's, my betting little keys. Now we're just gonna keep adding zip ties where I feel the need to, and then we'll get the intercooler started. I have some zip ties here and there, just trying to keep everything kind of tidy, out of the way, secured. Kind of little overview of what I did. Made sure that my drain line is at a slight angle. It's never higher than the bottom port as it comes all the way around into the drain Y down there. I'm gonna throw on the intercooler bracket on the right side. Almost forgot about that. Just a couple 12 mil bolts. Might keep that loose until we get it aligned. A little courtesy lube on there just to kind of make my life easier. Put just a little finger dab of WD-40 around here, just for ease of install. Alright, let's get this thing in place. 3 minutes later, I haven't done shit. Might take a little bit more finessing than normal. Okay, well it wasn't so terribly bad. So the worst part was what I already expected, and it's getting on this lower intercooler hose here. Just because the Y fitting down here where the vent goes, it's just super close to the mouth of the turbo. Where the Y fitting goes, you just have to kind of pull this breather hose away from it as you're pushing on the intercooler piping. But for the most part, it wasn't all that bad. Lubing up the intercooler piping definitely did help, so keep that in mind. Oh yeah, and also here, a little clearance issue in the directions. I do say to zip tie this breather here down further, and I can see why, because it comes in contact with the corner of the intercooler right there. So I'm gonna zip tie that down a little further, just so it has clearance. Just learning as I go along, per usual. But for the most part, we're looking good. We're on the home stretch here. Alright, AOS is installed. Now what, Jay?
Drive it.
Start it and drive it? Let's begin with starting it, checking for leaks of any kind, and then we will maybe take a test drive. What do you say? Get that battery back on here.
The battery on? Dad, I'm just moving it around to see what you're doing.
a good shot.
Got that car right here. Got the same car right here.
We'll let it get up to temperature, check for coolant leaks, any of the coolant hoses. Don't put your fingers in there, that's danger, danger. Don't put your fingers in there. There's gonna be a little bit of coolant burning off just from what dribbled out. All in all, I think it was a successful install. Well fellas, it's been about a week since I did the AOS install and everything's holding up nicely. I definitely would hope everything was holding up after a week. Everything's looking good and ready to live that AOS life. So AOS is installed and this is about all we're left with as far as parts, spare parts, pieces of hose that we had to trim. This is a little fitting for the turbo inlet. I'm not sure, this may be mandatory if you don't have an aftermarket one like me. My Perrin turbo inlet comes with basically the same thing, it just doesn't say IAG obviously. So I think that's why we have this extra one, so that'll just be set aside. These are the series of vent hoses we pulled off of the valve covers, PCV hoses, your PCV valve. So we don't need that anymore. Anyways, just a little rundown, this is what you have left over. That being said, I guess I'm gonna end it right here. Very happy to get the AOS installed finally, and I'm looking forward to a nice reliable future with the old EJ. Only time will tell what will happen, but it's kind of like a peace of mind knowing that you have something installed that's gonna help your engine in the long term. So no more oil blow by. I'm gonna keep that intake track nice and clean, no oil, just air as it should be. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next one with the next mod, the next upgrade, the next cosmetic. It may be an old crusty car, but I have some plans for it, you know. Maybe I've neglected the car long enough to maybe make it look better now. So I think we're gonna dig into the aesthetics, getting the paint back in shape, getting ready for the wrap. I do wanna make the car look good again, you know? The car's gonna look great again. I just don't know what day that is, what year that's gonna happen, but that's the goal, that's the motivation to get the car looking good. I'm gonna try to make it not look 20 years old. Hopefully we can make it look presentable again, but for the time being, this is the way it sits. And that's just the way life is right now. So I'm hoping to get back on this thing soon. With that being said, guys, I'm gonna let you go and we'll see you guys on the next video. Any helpful links will be down in the description. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out.